From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewige. The top stories tonight. Court orders EFCC to release within 24 hours businesswoman Aisha Achimugu, accused of money laundering. House of Representatives pushes for harmonized legislative framework to unify energy policies across Nigeria. U.S. economy shrinks amid tariff war as President Trump marks his first 100 days in office.
In business, Central Bank of Nigeria fines Paystack a sum of 250 million naira over regulatory breach.
And in sports, hope dims for Nigeria ahead of the 2025 World Athletics Relays as sprint star Favour Ofili reportedly considers withdrawal from the team. Details in a moment.
Glad you tuned in. Tonight begins now. We begin tonight in the Federal Capital Territory, where the Abuja High Court has ordered the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to release popular businesswoman and socialite Aisha Achimugu within 24 hours following her arraignment on Wednesday. The court also ordered the EFCC to report a feedback on May the 2nd. Her arraignment came a day after she was arrested by operatives of the EFCC at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja shortly after she returned from London and was subsequently taken into custody. On Monday, Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court Abuja ordered her to appear before the EFCC on Tuesday and also to appear before the court on Wednesday, April the 30th. She was declared wanted in March by the EFCC over allegations of criminal conspiracy and money laundering. In other stories, the House of Representatives is pushing for a harmonized legislative framework to unify energy policies across Nigeria, particularly in the renewable sector. Chairman of the House Committee on Renewable Energy, Afam Ogene, urged state governments to adopt the recently unveiled National Integrated Electricity Policy, also known as NIEP. This is to fully leverage the provisions of the Electricity Act of 2023, which empowers states to issue licenses for all electricity-related activities. Speaking to newsmen in Abuja ahead of the upcoming first National Legislative Conference on Renewable Energy and the Expo, Ogene says that the adoption of the policy will expand investment opportunity across the states.
Electricity Act 2023, signed into law in February 2024, permits states to issue licenses for all electricity activities, generation, transmission, distribution, encompassing lawmaking, regulation, and policy development across the entire power sector value chain. The new National Integrated Electricity Policy 2025 provides an even clearer framework that states need to adopt as they set in place their new electricity markets. It is expected that in doing so, renewables will form a large part of the emerging investment opportunities.
To discuss this development, I'm now joined by energy expert Nika Gule. Good to have you on the news tonight. Let's begin with what a unified energy law mean in real term.
Good evening, and good evening to our viewers globally. Thank you very much for welcoming me on the news segment. So, a unified energy policy, by its own definition, means the harmonization of the different pieces of legislation that govern energy generation and supply in Nigeria. As at yet, we do not have a unified energy policy in Nigeria, because currently we have different pieces of legislation. For instance, we have the Petroleum Industry Act, which was signed into law back in 2021. We have the Electricity Act, which was signed into law in 2023. So these are the two major energy legislation that we have in Nigeria. Of course, we have the Renewable Energy Master Plan. It's not a piece of legislation yet, it's a policy document. So a unified energy policy will entail bringing all of these legislations into a single legislation that governs the energy sector in Nigeria. And it's something that is still being discussed by the National Assembly, specifically the House of Representatives. And I believe that it is from this stakeholder engagement that if there is the green light, then they can take this forward in terms of proposing a bill that will go through the legislative efforts before it becomes law.
Nick, let's just assume that the work is to produce one law that encompasses the current challenges Nigeria faces in the energy sector. As an expert in this area, what would be some of the key provisions that should be included in the proposed law?
And so first and foremost, let me serve a caveat. And the caveat is that I don't even think Nigeria's problem now, as far as energy is concerned, is legislation. We have the legislation. The issue is the application of the legislation. How are we putting into practice the laws that we have? You know, for instance, we have the Petroleum Industry Act. What are we doing as regards the Petroleum Industry Act to take care of the issues that we have in the petroleum sector? For instance, as we speak today, Nigeria is producing less than 2 million barrels of crude oil per day. And we have reserves. Very recently, the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission said that we have nearly 38 billion barrels of crude oil in the ground. And if you have such a huge reserve in the ground, how are we applying the Petroleum Industry Act to enable the extraction of this crude oil? For instance, we can be extracting this crude oil at 5 million barrels per day. It's going to change the fortunes of Nigeria. What are we using the Petroleum Industry Act to deal with the midstream, the refineries that we have? What are we doing to deal with the pipelines that we have? What are we doing with our law to deal with downstream in terms of marketing and distribution of petroleum products in Nigeria? If only our policy handlers are able to deal with that, then we can even have the confidence that if they now have a unified law, it will facilitate the work that they are doing. Because currently, I cannot see how, for instance, we have an Electricity Act, but yet we are still doing 5,000 megawatts of electricity. So how would a Unified Energy Act will not change the game? So I would say, as much as the advantages for a unified energy law are there, the National Assembly, who have oversight function over the different ministries, departments, and agencies of government that are responsible for the energy sector in Nigeria, should get on with their oversight function, should be asking the relevant questions. Why is Nigeria 200 million people on 5,000 megawatts when Qatar is got 3 million people and is on 8,000 megawatts? Look, 3 million people is just like the population of Lagos, Ireland. And they are on 8,000 megawatts, which is more energy, almost double the electricity supply of Nigeria as a country of 200 million people. So this is actually what should be the focus. Let us at least see the laws that we have now being operated before we talk about bringing in new laws.
What are your thoughts on this meeting that the House of Assembly is anticipating? The idea is to bring stakeholders that will speak to the challenges and look for, you know, a holistic legislative framework. If you were to be at that or part of the organizing of that conference, what would be the focus for you? Because I understand a little of what you're saying to be that we do not need laws, but the implementation of what is already on the ground and oversight functions. But for this conference that's already being convened, what would be on the agenda if you were to lead?
Yeah, so first of all, when the Petroleum Industry Act was undergoing legislation, was going through the legislative process, I offered on several occasions that we are behind the times. Instead of trying to promulgate a Petroleum Industry Act, we should have been looking at an Energy Industry Act. Because the Energy Industry Act, therefore, will encompass both the fossil fuels energy we have now and the renewable energy, because the world is moving into renewable energy. So if I were to, like you said, put in my input in this conference, this is the first thing I'm going to say, that we should begin to take the laws that we have, like the Petroleum Industry Act, to transform it into an Energy Industry Act. What I would suggest that in order not to put too much into one law, we should separate the electricity law from the fossil fuels. But as it stands today, we have the Petroleum Industry Act dealing with the fossil fuels, while we have the Electricity Act dealing with non-renewable energy sources. So we just need to combine the Electricity Act in terms of all of the sources for electricity. And all of the sources for electricity include the fossil fuel, which is generation with gas, and renewable sources, which is generation with water, with the sunlight, that is solar, with the wind, and with biofuels. So that, you know, we know what happens in Nigeria. You put too much on one person and we don't end up getting results. And that is the reason why Electricity Act has now devolved from the federal government to the states and local governments and even the private sector, so that they too can come in. You know, we talk about things like state police. Why? Because we put all the police on one person, the Inspector General, and if it's not effective, then the whole thing is down. So this is why, for me, in as much as I will be advising that the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act, should be switched to Energy Industry Act, I will be very worried that we don't put too much on one agency or department or government or ministry, so that we don't put all our eggs in one basket.
All right, Nick, thank you so much for your time and the insights provided.
Thank you very much and good evening.
You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Court orders EFCC to release within 24 hours businesswoman Aisha Achimugu accused of money laundering. House of Representatives pushes for harmonized legislative framework to unify energy policies across Nigeria. U.S. economy shrinks amid tariff war as President Trump marks his first 100 days in office. Glad you're still with us. Let's tell you now that a coalition of legal advocates is calling for urgent action over alleged corruption in Bauchi State, warning that Governor Bala Mohammed's rumored defection to the APC must not derail ongoing investigations. At a press briefing held at the NUJ Secretariat in Jos, lawyers of the cause for Bauchi decried selective justice in the handling of anti-graft cases. They faulted the EFCC's focus on the former accountant general while overlooking other senior officials implicated in corruption allegations. The group also demanded the immediate suspension of the Bauchi State SSG, the current Accountant General, as well as others linked to the scandal.
Our idea of justice on this matter is for the government at all levels to always give a satisfactory account of the taxpayers' money, resources, and other articles of general ownership put in their hands on trust. The SSG, Bauchi State, Accountant General, and other officials involved should resign or be suspended forthwith. It is our view that based on the seriousness of the allegations against the SSG of Bauchi State, the Accountant General, and other officials involved in the corruption case currently pending before Honorable Justice O.A. Egwata of the Federal High Court, Abuja, and the fact that some of these officials of the Bauchi State government shown an earlier invitation by the EFCC on the matter. We call on all of them to resign or step aside from their respective offices forthwith, pending the determination of the case against them.
Let's revisit the discussion on renewable energy. The Abia State Governor, Alex Otte, has charged members of the State Electricity Regulatory Agency to ensure that power supply is improved in the state, especially the Old Bende area, comprising 8 local governments. The governor says the committee should take steps towards sealing deals with the Enugu Electricity Distribution Company to achieve power stability for the Umuahia Ring area. Speaking on behalf of the committee, Ihanye Mweze assures of commitments to realizing the government's expectations.
The idea, and this is one other job that we will have to get them to immediately. We at the final stages of negotiation with EEDC. And the idea for us is to acquire the Umuahia. We will call it the Umuahia Ring Fence. And that includes Umuahia North, Umuahia South, Iguana, Dana, Afia, is Iguana,
Industrialization cannot be effective without electricity. We have to get this idea also. So we promise to deliver in such a way that we will place everything as the role model. Then we have a regular supply of electricity.
Nigeria's federal government has signed a landmark agreement with the United Kingdom to tackle the growing threat of cybercrime in the country. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, also unveiled a joint cybercrime case team which forms part of the agreement signed. Our correspondent, Joshua Imari, has more in this report.
The agreement signing ceremony, which held at the Ministry of Justice in Abuja, brought together heads of agencies under the ministry, including state representatives from the United Kingdom.
Members of the team are drawn from the Nigerian Police Force, National Cyber Crime Center, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, the Nigerian Computer Emergency Response Team from the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Federal Ministry of Justice, and the Federal High Court.
Speaking at the event, Fagbemi says that the creation of the joint cybercrime case team was necessary given the increasing complex and evolving nature of cyber threats.
While we have a national legal framework for combating it, it is important to note that laws alone cannot win battles. It is the people who interpret, enforce, and apply these laws that must be equipped, united, and empowered to act swiftly, cohesively, and effectively.
Representing the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice Inyang Ekwo commended the initiative, describing it as a timely intervention set to tackle the rising tide of cybercrime.
The establishment of the Case scheme is a crucial step in operationalizing this commitment. This dedicated team, comprising skilled professionals from diverse backgrounds and jurisdictions, will serve as a vanguard in our fight against cybercrime. Their collaborative efforts will undoubtedly enhance our capacity to investigate, prosecute, and ultimately deter these sophisticated criminal activities.
Also speaking was the UK's Minister of State, who reaffirmed Britain's commitment to the agreement and to working closely with Nigeria in enforcing it.
We've been very pleased to support and help where we can with the development of the Joint Centre today, but we know that this is an initiative which will help support tackling of cybercrime, will help bear down on criminals, and will add value to the Nigerian government's approach to crime, and also jointly with us to look at how we can improve growth in the Nigerian economy and growth in the United Kingdom economy.
Stakeholders at the event described the agreement as a bold step that reflects the shared determination of both nations to decisively tackle cybercrime. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imadayi.
Many thanks, Joshua. Regional lawmakers of the ECOWAS Parliament has urged member states of the region body to embrace unity and leverage on opportunities available through their membership. This was as they converged on Banjul, Gambia for the Parliament's delocalized meeting to review the political, security, humanitarian and socio-economic consequences of the withdrawal of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso from the bloc. They also urged member states to leverage opportunities available through their unity rather than focus on the challenges affecting the sub-region.
ECOWAS faces reduced financial contributions and diminished influence. Besides, the split of ECOWAS poses profound implications for the African Union's broader integration agenda, challenging current realities and future assumptions.
ECOWAS was born in 1975 from a Lagos Treaty, has for 5 decades embodied the shared aspiration for a common destiny. It has transformed challenges into opportunities, making our region a model of resilience and cooperation.
I would like to take this special opportunity to commend the honorable members of the Joint Committee for their availability, dedication, and invaluable contributions to the work of the ECOWAS Parliament. Your presence here today, despite competing national and regional commitments, is a testament to your unwavering commitment to strengthening our regional institutions and advancing the collective aspirations of the West African people.
Tonight returns after this short break. The UN's food and refugee agencies have warned of dire cuts to their services as funding plummets, especially from key donor, the United States under President Donald Trump. The UN World Food Programme says it will cut staff by 25 to 30% as contributions to the global aid agency have dropped. The head of the UN Refugee Agency warned Monday that reduced contributions could force a 1/3 reduction in its activities despite worldwide conflicts that continue to strain its resources. Trump has moved to slash U.S. contributions to the UN and its agencies since returning to the White House. The U.S. economy shrank at a 0.3% annual pace from January through March, the first drop in 3 years. This comes as President Trump marks his first 100 days in office amid trade wars which have disrupted businesses. First quarter growth was slowed by a surge in imports as companies in the United States tried to bring in foreign goods before Trump imposed massive tariffs. The January to March drop in gross domestic product and the nation's output of goods and services reversed a 2.4% gain in the last 3 months of 2024. Trump has blamed his predecessor for the dwindling economy while predicting that his new tariffs will lead to a boom like no other. To discuss this is a policy analyst and journalist, Ademi Yukunu. Thanks for joining us tonight. How do you analyze this downward slope of the U.S. economy amid the ongoing trade war? Should we expect it further going down in the coming days?
Well, let's understand that there are major economic policies that should usually stabilize any economy. And in the absence of stabilized economic policies, you'd have the kind of turmoil that the United States of America has put itself right now. Now, the Trump administration is in focus right now. And the four key things for me: number one, there's been reduced GDP rates. We have decreased business investment. You have rising inflation, and of course, retaliatory tariffs. Now, these things are actually offshoots of Donald Trump's decision on April the 2nd that they called Liberation Day to actually increase the tariffs for goods coming in, especially from China and other countries. On the one hand, it has impacted negatively the economy of the United States of America. But on the other hand, if we look at certain things that Donald Trump is trying to do, I think it is to actually perhaps give life to the ailing manufacturing and perhaps construction companies of America, which perhaps it felt up until that time, things have not gone well. But it is obvious before everybody that the GDP rates of the United States has reduced, that business investment between that time and now has also been hanging in the air. Then inflation, the cost of the, for instance, let me tell you one thing that happened recently. 12 eggs, there's a way their eggs are here. You used to get it for like $2 and something like that, or $3 and something. Right now, if you want to buy that 12, you get it for about $10, $12, depending on when you want to get it. So it's obvious that most of the decisions of Trump in terms of the trade and increased tariffs have even affected the operations of the most of the organizations and perhaps the food industry in the country, which you'd want to call the agricultural sector. So it's not been everything good. Then the retaliatory tariffs is also another, especially China, which is the main country in the eye that Donald Trump wants to actually let do certain things with the tariff. So that is what it has been. The economy has shrunk, most definitely, and it's not been favorable even for the U.S. at this time.
Well, what do you say then to Trump in his usual fashion, attributing the economic woes to his predecessor, former President Biden? How valid is this claim, in your view?
Okay, let's not actually take things away from the facts right now. The problem with the economy of the United States of America started, ditto other countries of the world, after we had the pandemic, especially when Trump came in the first time, when he talked about America first, especially the year 2018. Now, the COVID-19 also came and impacted the economy negatively, from which many economies that are properly documented have not recovered. But let us also say that Donald Trump may be right in certain areas because, number one, the focus shifted from the economy to immigration under Biden. And it's so sad that the Biden administration on record allowed over 8 million illegal migrants into the United States of America. Now, when you have 8.45 million people that are actually illegal coming to your country, they come with lots of baggage. Number one, you look at the economy of the country, you look at things like food stamps, you look at certain provisions made for them, because when people come into your country and they seek asylum, there are certain international signatories to which you are part of that will require you to make certain provisions for them until the time you either tell them to go back to their country if it's safe, or you make temporary provisions for them to get certain jobs. So all of those monies came out of the American taxpayers' pocket, and that perhaps seems the reason that the Trump administration is blaming Biden. But to put things in proper perspective, this problem started in 2018 under the Donald Trump administration that actually focused on China. And if you also look at it on the one hand, China, quite frankly, appears to be the white tiger that is taking major things from countries, but it's not getting it in return. If you look at Sudan, for instance, the way China has had inroads into Sudan, the way China has had inroads into Zambia, I'm talking about African country, and the way we have also allowed China, such that less than 1-2 years ago, the Ogun State government and the Chinese government actually had a lot of problem regarding Ogun State Free Trade Zone, where they almost took Nigeria's jet parked in Europe. So you look at it, that certain things are not really right with regard to how China does its own international trade. And those are perhaps the promptings for Trump not to let it get to that point. But in proper perspective, this whole thing started under Make America Great Again when Trump came in 2018. But of course, Biden didn't actually pay attention to many of the disadvantages it brought to the United States economy. So that's the proper perspective in regard to your question.
Okay, as we say here in Nigeria, after 100 days, we would expect to see some, things happening and away from the blame game. Yesterday, he celebrated 100 days in office. How has he fared? I mean, you're saying he's blaming the wrong man for the situation at the moment, but generally speaking, how has he fared?
Well, if you look at, anytime we do a criticism, so let's start from the constructive side now. The Donald Trump administration has created 345,000 jobs. That is on record. You'd also have to talk about the fact that about 8,500 okay, let me leave that part and talk about one of the things he did. Let's look at 142 executive orders, for instance. That is a very high number regarding any government of the United States of America. When a single president within the short time has had 442 executive orders, that alarms me. Then let me also put it straight to you that 95% of illegal migration into the United States has actually been something that has been able to curb. The Biden administration was very lax in that regard, but for the Donald Trump administration, 95% illegal migration has actually been curbed by this administration. Then also, questionably though, is about 1,500 people that have been granted amnesty or pardon. Don't forget the people that actually attacked the Capitol Hill are actually those that we've talked about, and the fact that we felt that should not have happened. But the Donald Trump administration, particularly Donald Trump, granted them clemency and pardon, and those are some of the things that people have questioned. Then don't forget that he also created the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, as headed by the billionaire Elon Musk. He also wanted to unbundle the Department of Education. He felt that some of the government agencies are full of waste and non-accountability in terms of finance. So you see that it's a mixed bag of what he has done. But the facts are also there that in 100 days, he has had 345,000 jobs created, especially making gains in construction and manufacturing. Those are the two key areas he's been able to achieve success. Then also do not forget, yes, please.
I know there's so much to talk about, but quickly, in 30 seconds, if you can, what would you suggest needs to change in Trump's approach if he is to turn things around?
Well, the point is he has to remind himself that international policies and trade do not oftentimes go unparalleled. It is for you to ensure that you create room for the adjustment you intend to achieve. For instance, you cannot use trade to actually show that you are the stronger of both parties. You have to use trade to actually build bridges. So it is obvious that China may not be the best behavior when it comes to how we trade with the United States of America, but the US also must understand that jobs are being lost. Politically, the ratings are stanked. In November of this year, they're going to have midterm elections. So he has to have what I call a panoramic view of the implications of his action and begin to see the opportunities to join rather than war. With that, the U.S. can gradually get back its body language, which we know is the world power that we understand it to be, please.
A good place to pause. Thank you, as always, for speaking with us.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Joanna joins me now for some business update. Paystack has been fined for breach of regulation. Joanna, how is that?
Yes, it's the most significant penalty yet from the CBN since they started operation in 2016. They obtained a license for switching and processing payments. However, they recently launched an app that receives deposits. That's a breach, and for that, CBN is fining them ~250 million naira. I'll bring you the details on that in a moment. The Central Bank of Nigeria has fined Paystack 250 million naira for operating its peer-to-peer payment app, ZAP, as a wallet without regulatory approval. The CBN classified ZAP as a deposit-taking product, a function only permitted for licensed banks or microfinance institutions. Launched in March, ZAP allows users to send and receive money, but Paystack only holds a switching and processing license. A Paystack spokesperson stated the company is collaborating with the regulator on ZAP's review. This fine is Paystack's most significant regulatory penalty since receiving CBN approval in 2016, highlighting increased scrutiny on fintech firms. And a Nigerian judge has postponed a tax evasion case against Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, until May 12th. This decision follows a request from the Federal Inland Revenue Service to serve court documents by email. The FIRS is seeking a $79.5 billion in economic losses and $2 billion in back taxes, alleging Binance's operations have contributed to Nigeria's currency instability. Binance, which does not have a physical office in Nigeria, has not commented on the allegation, but states it is cooperating with the FIRS to address potential historic tax liabilities. And Saudi Arabia's recent transition from defending oil prices to expanding market share may lead to a prolonged lower crude prices. Analysts believe the policy shift threatens oil-dependent nations like Nigeria, already struggling with falling prices. Reports indicate that Saudi Arabian officials are informing allies of their unwillingness to support the market with further supply cuts, suggesting a move towards increased production. Frustrated by Kazakhstan and Iraq exceeding OPEC Plus targets, Riyadh is changing its approach, contributing to a recent drop in oil prices below $60 per barrel, which pressures economies reliant on oil exports. And coming to the local bourse, trading activities in Nigerian equities markets closed negative, continuing the bearish run from yesterday, today, Wednesday. We're seeing the market down 12 basis points. All share index at 105,800.85, and market capitalization is 66.49 trillion naira. Coming to sectoral performances, largely positive if you take a look at it, but not enough again, just like yesterday, to keep the markets up. Banking sector is down. We see insurance up 0.87%, oil and gas almost flat, up marginally. Industrial is also pretty much flat, and consumer goods is down 1.98%. That's it on business tonight. I am Joanna Mustafa. Tonight continues with Felicity.
Tunde's here with the sports updates tonight. Tunde,
yeah,
what
Felicity.
happened with athletics, I believe?
Well, Felicity, like a bad smell, a major issue that came up at last year's Olympics seems not ready to go away. It has now probably threatened Nigeria's participation at the upcoming World Relays. I'll talk about all that and much more. Hello and welcome to Sports. Reports say that top Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofili is considering pulling out of the 2025 World Athletics Relays in Guangzhou, China, due to unresolved issues stemming from her controversial exclusion from the Paris 2024 Olympics. Ofili was omitted from the women's 100-meter list in Paris, prompting a probe that reportedly indicted certain officials. However, some of those individuals have now been named among the officials leading the team to China. Ofili views this as a sign of disregard for athletes and a lack of accountability in Nigerian athletics. The Nigerian contingent includes 17 athletes set to compete in 4 events. Despite her inclusion in the women's 4x100-meter squad, Ofili's participation remains uncertain. Meanwhile, the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, has accused some state governors of working against efforts to revive and grow the Nigerian sports ecosystem. Speaking recently on a radio program hosted by former Nigerian international Segun Odegbami, Diko criticized poor leadership for the decay of stadiums across the country. Despite Nigeria having the most stadiums in Africa, he noted that only one meets international standards. Diko revealed that that international stadium experts will arrive on the 12th of May to assess key stadiums in the country and map out realistic plans for rejuvenation based on available funds. He also criticized the widespread use of synthetic pitches and the promotion of foreign clubs by public officials, urging support for domestic sports. The Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja will serve as a pilot in the nationwide sports infrastructure rehabilitation project. To women's football now, Nigeria Ratels have secured the final place in the 2024-2025 Nigeria Women's Football League Super 6 after holding Bayelsa Queens to a goalless draw. Despite FC Robo Queens beating Delta Queens 2-1, Nigeria Ratels advanced with 23 points, one more than Robo Queens, sailing third place in Group B. They joined Bayelsa Queens, Edo Queens, River Angels, Nasarawa Amazons, and Remo Stars Ladies in the season-ending Super 6 tournament. The NWFL has announced Ikenne in Ogun State as the host city, with matches to be played at the Remo Star Stadium from the 8th to the 17th of May. The tournament winner will represent Nigeria at the WAFU B qualifiers for a spot in the 2025 CAF Women's Champions League. To table tennis now, the unseeded duo of Samuel Boboye and Iyanoluwa Falana clinched the mixed doubles title on Wednesday, April the 30th, at the 5th Michael and Felicia Alabi Memorial National Table Tennis Championships going on in Ota Ayigbaju in Osun State. They defeated second seeds Abdul Basit Abdul Fattah and Shukurat Ayela Begum 3-1. The 5-day tournament, attracting top players from across Nigeria, also saw a shock in the under-15 boys singles when top seed Ayola Usman was eliminated in the last 16 by unseeded Solomon Oyineko. The competition, with an 11.5 million naira prize money, it's nearing its conclusion on the 2nd of May. And finally, the NFL has fined the Atlanta Falcons $250,000 and defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 after a prank call targeted rookie quarterback Shadir Sanders. The prank call occurred when Jax Ulbrich, son of Falcons coach, accessed Sanders' phone number from his father's iPad and impersonated New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis. The call made last Friday confused Sanders, who had been projected as a first-round pick but was drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Jax later apologized, and the Falcons issued a statement expressing appreciation for the NFL's investigation and emphasized their commitment to improving security practices. The Ulbrich family is also participating in community service related to the incident. And that's all we have on sports. It's back to you, Felicity.
Time for entertainment now. Adele is here. Social media advertising. What's going on with that?
Yes, well, we're talking about regulators who would now have to be sure what you're putting out there, what you're advertising before you put it on social media. But I'll definitely bring you all the details shortly.
Okay.
All right, now the Federal High Court in Lagos has affirmed that the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, ARCON, holds full legal authorities to regulate all forms of advertising across traditional, digital, and social media platforms. The court, presided over by Justice Aluko, ruled that ARCON's powers extend to individuals and private entities engaged in advertising, not just registered practitioners, emphasizing that the nature of the activity is what matters. The court also upheld ARCON's jurisdiction over social media platforms like Instagram, deeming them public communication spaces. However, while ARCON can issue violation notices, only the Advertising Offences Tribunal can impose fines. All advertisements must now be vetted and approved by ARCON before being published. So, Felicity, what do you think?
I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm laughing inside, laughing, because how is this going to work, really? Social media.
Yes.
Instagram, Twitter,
yes.
X,
yes.
TikTok,
Facebook,
all of that. How is it going to happen?
I believe they have a plan.
Ambitious. Anything is possible these days, if you know what I mean. Anything is possible. So who knows? They might shock all of us and really do what they need to do.
We're hoping that it pulls through eventually.
Okay.
Eventually. Now let's talk about something that has been for a while now. Talking about Diddy. As his trial nears, the music mogul Diddy is seeking a gag order to prevent prosecutors and Cassie's attorney from publicly commenting on his sex trafficking case, arguing that the media statements could bias the jury and hinder his right to a fair trial. This move follows public remarks from attorneys like Cassie's lawyer Douglas Wigdor and Lisa Bloom, both who have condemned Diddy's alleged actions. Now, Diddy's legal team also filed to exclude certain evidences from the trial, claiming that they were submitted too late for adequate preparation. They argue that some allegations involve consensual acts, while the prosecutors counter that Diddy had ample time to review the evidence and accuse him of trying to delay the trial with all these schemes. Well, we're here, May is around the corner, and that's when it starts. So we can't wait.
Let's see what happens.
We can't wait. Well, that's all we have on entertainment tonight.
Before we go, news just reaching us says the National Judicial Council has directed Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma to reverse his recent appointment of Justice Theophilus Nnamdi. The NJC, at its 108th meeting held in Abuja between April 29th and the 30th, also directed Uzodinma to appoint the most senior judge in the High Court's hierarchy as the acting CJ in conformity with Section 271, subsection 4 of the Constitution. According to a statement by NJC spokeswoman, the council was of the view that the constitutional provision on the appointment of an acting chief judge of a state does not give room for discretion. The NJC resolved that Justice Ezuku should be issued a query to show cause within 7 days, while disciplinary action should not be taken against him for presenting himself to be sworn in as the acting chief judge of the state. And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here is a quick reminder of our top stories. The court has ordered the release within 24 hours of businesswoman Aisha Achimugu, who was accused of money laundering. The House of Representatives is pushing for harmonized legislative framework to unify energy policies across Nigeria. We also told you that the U.S. economy has shrunk amid tariff war as President Trump marks his first 100 days in office. Do send your eyewitness report to the number now on your screen. You can also follow us on social media to do that. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, many thanks for your kind attention. Have a good night.